You're listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk.
Number 371.
Hello and welcome back to the Outdoors Station with me, your host, Bob Cartwright, and this slightly extended podcast with my guest, Heather Elston, who has just completed her very first walk across Scotland in the 2014 TGO Challenge. Now, before we get into conversation with Heather, I just wanted to once again ask people if they wouldn't mind to drop me a quick note, if you could, relating to your listening habits of these podcasts. I'm just trying to do some research and find out if people are downloading the podcasts, and if so, where from, or are they streaming them live on their phone or MP3 device? Do you visit the Outdoor Station website to get the information, etc., etc.? All this will help with my plans for future productions. And I'd just like to say a quick hi to Neil Timms from Suffolk, Rick Nielsen from Las Vegas, and Julia Freeman for their dialogue. We've had a little bit of a chit-chat about a few things. So more people, the merrier. I can get a better picture of how people are absorbing the content. Now, before I give the email address, here's something else that you could possibly add to that particular note. As Rose and I are about to go off to the huge European trade fair in Friedrichshafen in mid-July. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that we've been going for the last, 10 years now, I suppose, every couple of years. And when we go, we try and pick up and record a good pile of podcasts, interviews with people about forthcoming products or products that are currently available. Now, as always, we're wearing two hats, one from our shop, the Backpacking Light shop, looking for, obviously, more exciting lightweight products, and the other from the Outdoors Station. And as I say, we interview brands about their various forthcoming releases, etc., etc. Now, technology has improved over the years, so what we'd like to know from you guys is your preferences. Obviously, we normally do audio interviews because obviously it's a bit quicker to do and in some cases easier, but now we're able, of course, to do video, and we can incorporate in our YouTube videos various interviews or discussions about various products while we're there. And also, do you have any preferences or any ideas of people you would like us to speak to, brands-wise, of course, about any particular products? That would be really, really useful to know. So, if you could possibly drop us a quick note, email style, with any suggestions you might have for our big German trade fair. You have until the 8th of July when we're off on the 9th. And of course, any comments you might have about your listening habits, visiting the website, etc., etc. Just really give me a bit more of a feel for how people are enjoying, researching, or not, as the case may be, the various podcasts and the content that we do. So please send your emails once again to info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
Drop us a line with your feedback, suggestions or comments directly to info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
I think it's a splendid idea.
Let's now move on to my interview with Heather Elston. And now, Heather is a friend of many years, but also a neighbour in sunny Malvern here, who, following numerous stories and podcasts and chats and videos, has been inspired at last to do the TGO Challenge for the very first time in May 2014. As a solo female walker, I thought she might have a fresh perspective on the event and would have plenty to say, which may help others who might be considering it for themselves in the future, in particular female walkers, of course. I'm glad to say she made it, and like all challenges, she had plenty of experiences and met lots of people over those 2 long, enjoyable weeks.
Well, as you can see, I'm here to tell the tale, Bob. Having had a wonderful time, a wonderful experience, meeting some really amazing people.
So it was, 2 weeks, was it? Or just under 2 weeks of your crossing?
Just under 2 weeks. I started on the Friday and finished on the Thursday. I carried on through. I was behind on a couple of occasions, but I was intending to have a rest day in Braemar. But because I was behind, I actually walked 2 of the days in one, which got me back on track.
What about the event itself then? Did it turn out to be the event you were anticipating for what you'd read about it before?
I think exactly that. Although at the time you're doing the event, you tend to become absorbed in just getting from A to B and enjoying the visual experiences that you've got before you, just seeing the landscape pan out, and not forgetting, of course, to look back and see the view that you're leaving behind, because that's something that often does get forgotten. So I actually spent 2 weeks just out in the wilderness. A lot of the time, particularly the first week, I was solo, I was on my own. I was experiencing that feeling of, come on, Heather, if you don't do this, nobody else will. Nobody's going to pitch your tent up or get your bedroll out, which I'm usually used to with as I do running with another running partner. So from that point of view, it's down to you. If you don't do it, nobody else will, basically.
So this was a challenge that you'd set yourself this year then, on your bucket list, so to speak, was it?
That's correct, yes. Having decided I wanted to do this the previous year, the idea was that I was going to do it independently.
Now, I know we spoke before you went, and I explained to you how the weather can be brilliant or it can be awful or something in between. What were the conditions like for the last couple of weeks?
I think 2014 will go down as being a particularly good year. You've experienced it yourself, I think, under pretty poor weather conditions. We didn't have too much rain, and I think looking back, I can be thankful for that.
Yeah, it would have added a bit more of a challenge to you.
Yes, I think so. Although at the time you don't feel that, but putting your tent up in the pouring rain, taking it down, walking all day in the pouring rain, I can imagine that must be pretty demoralising.
Yeah, that's one of the words I'd use for it, certainly.
Yeah.
So you had pretty good weather then. I mean, seeing the photographs, in fact, all the photographs have been taken in glorious sunshine. They
have, yes. We did have. I did experience some rain on the first 2 days. Nothing too serious, but even so, I did have to collect the tent up on one day that was quite wet and carry that around. But really quite fortunate. The last few days really were superb.
Now, everybody's experiences are different when they're preparing for the challenge. Some people are very lucky and they look forward to it all year round, and perhaps they've got a bit more time on their hands if they're retired. But obviously you work full time. You're a sister in a hospital, which in itself brings a lot of pressures. So just to give people an idea of what you have to face to go prepare for something like this, I think you were up against it for various reasons, time-wise, just before you started.
That's correct, and certainly on reflection, looking back, I hadn't really prepared myself fully for the event. Although I knew I was safe, I had all the right kit, I had the knowledge to spend time out in the mountains and to navigate. There's also a certain amount of mental preparation you need to do. I had to work for 12-hour shifts before I started. I was doing an assignment that I had to actually complete on the day of of travelling up. So I was quite torn between my loyalties really to my job, to my future experience for my assignment and my family, and obviously wanting to get the most out of the TGO. So I found the first few days of the event just playing catch up really.
Yeah, I suppose catch up with everything in your life, really, trying to switch off from the assignment you just handed in and all the rest of it, and get into the groove, I suppose, get into the pace, get into the stroll.
That's correct, yes. And in fact, missing my flight up to Inverness wasn't really a good idea, but that's another story.
Well, I know you had a bit of a stressful start, and it's fully understandable when people can visualise the fact that you had so much on your plate. Sadly, because of the assignment, you missed the flight, and then I think you caught the train up, did you?
Yes, I did catch the train up, and, there is always a silver lining. I've always thought that in my life, and the actual train journey up is quite magnificent and breathtaking. So I enjoyed that much that I missed my stop at Strathcarron. I was enjoying the scenery that much. So a little hitchhike from the school bus got me back to Strathcarron, which was very good. So thank you, Jim, the bus driver.
who himself has got a reputation, I understand. So you got to Strathcarron then. Was this on the Friday or the Saturday?
This was on the Friday.
On the Friday,
Yes.
But Friday evening, I guess.
It was Friday evening by the time I'd got there. It should have been Thursday evening, but it ended up being the Friday evening.
Right.
I had to spend a night in Aberdeen.
Right. Okay. Well, the pleasures of the flesh have to be catered for. So we're starting off from Strathcarron. Then it's a lovely spot, isn't it?
It's a beautiful spot. Very friendly little hotel, and it's just ideal place to start, actually.
Well, 5 o'clock start. I presume the other challenges that were starting on that day had already gone.
Yeah,
You're
that's
on your own.
correct. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, let's just put listeners' minds at rest here. Heather is a very experienced adventure racer, so she does know what she's doing with regards being outdoors and in the hills and so on. So don't read any of this as being that she was inexperienced. But as part and parcel of the preparations that she was going to, and because of unfortunately the timescale and a few other disasters that happened en route, a friend had volunteered to print out some maps for her to get her started, just purely because we ran out of time to sort of correlate the information together, and as she's just explained, prepare herself for exactly what she was doing the following day, as it were, from leaving work. And it's worth talking about this because it's the type of mistake or the type of issue that can happen to people that can turn into a bit of a mistake. Your friend printed out the maps, but there was this very, very large scale A4 on normal paper, and consequently, as you started off, I understand that basically they slowly disintegrated fairly rapidly.
Yeah, as I said earlier, we did have the first 2 days there was quite a bit of rain, and I had to get out the paper to turn it over, and during the course of doing that, it got wet and disintegrated, and the print came through the paper, which was extremely unfortunate. It was on a 1 to 2.5 scale, so there wasn't an awful lot of information on the sheet either. So although I'd got my line plan on the map, I found it very difficult to actually pinpoint where I was if I was off my sheet of paper.
Your chosen route, yeah.
Yeah.
So you sort of went into the hills by all accounts, and obviously having arrived at 5 o'clock and had a fairly stressful, I'm sure, trip and preparation up there while you're getting yourself together, you sort of slightly deviated off your initial route, but did the sensible thing and camped down that first night. So how did it feel the first night, just getting yourself sorted and actually starting for real, as it were?
I was actually quite calm and collected at this point because I just knew that all my other timescales were gone, and I just had my own agenda, really. So I wasn't panicking. I knew that I needed to find out where I was, but I was quite calm from that point of view. But I just knew that the following day I needed to have a clear mind, I needed to have my rest, I needed to eat well, just to sort of get myself back on track, really.
It sounds like you needed that 24 hours just really to get into the mindset of what you were doing.
Yeah, I think that's correct, Bob. Definitely.
And as I say, I think the people that are retired that do this on a annual basis probably don't realise just how much stress that putting something like this together can be. If you're flying, you've got a family to look after as well. You've got so many things on your plate. Yeah.
My daughter's getting married in just over 3 weeks' time, and that's obviously been very time-consuming as well.
Do we have a dress yet?
No, I don't have a dress yet. She keeps nagging me, Mum, have you got your dress yet? But
so you can understand, listeners, exactly what's going on here. So anyway, cutting a long story short, I think you started off and you took the sensible route. You decided you're going to need to head back and pick up a full-size map somewhere. So you ended up down at Killian, is that right?
Yes, I did. I followed some electricity pylons and the flow of this stream and the river, knowing it was going to. I'd also got an Ordnance Survey map of the whole of Scotland, so I knew there was a little settlement there, And I was hopefully going to find some kind person to either lend me a map, an Ordnance Survey map, or I could buy one.
And is that what happened?
I think I met the spectrum of both types of personality, put it that way, the good and the bad in people.
Yeah. So the first person wasn't very helpful, but the second person was.
The second person was extremely helpful, yes, and I'm eternally grateful to Joan.
And Joan, thank you very much. So here you are down at Killian now. I've got the map in front of you. You can probably hear the computer running in the background. So we're looking at this on Memory Map at the moment, and looking at the route that you had originally planned and where you were, as it were, 24 hours later. You had a fair amount of distance to catch up. So you left Killian and went round to Iron Lodge.
That's correct.
And then from Iron Lodge, you wanted to get to... what was the name? Because you booked in a hotel somewhere, hadn't you?
Stroy.
In Stroy. Okay.
Or Struy.
Struy.
Yeah, Struy.
That is, according to this map and the route that we've just mapped out, 47 kilometres with a 1,500 metre climb and drop. You enjoy that day?
Yeah, I loved it. I was actually, I'd psyched myself up again. This lovely Joan, had sort of put me on the right track, literally, and told me where Iron Lodge was. So I didn't have to pack a tent away or anything like that. So I set off early at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I was a woman with a mission, and nothing was going to stop me getting to Struy that night.
Right. So you set off at what, 7:30ish?
Yes. Yeah. 7 o'clock. I got into Struy at about 10 to 9.
10 to 9. The last orders were for food was
9 o'clock.
Okay. So do explain to listeners exactly how you ate your food.
It was a toss-up between bath or food. I decided I wanted to do both, and I had my scampi and chips in the bath with a glass of wine.
I trust you didn't drop anything.
I didn't. No, not at all.
You must have been shattered, though, at the end of that.
I was really tired that day, yeah, but I was actually also invigorated as well, because I'd done nearly 3 days walking in the one day. And I felt I'd achieved something. Yeah,
you certainly had. I mean, you were back on track from a time-wise point of view. And did you meet any other challenges at the hotel with anybody else staying there?
There were some challenges at the hotel, yes, and they very kindly helped me with my next map, funnily enough.
Good.
Yep.
But unfortunately, you had a bit of a bit annoying, really, a bit of an annoying situation regarding your poles at Struy.
Yes, I certainly did. I came to set off that following day, looking for my well-loved pacer poles at this time, and they disappeared.
So somebody had lifted them?
Somebody had lifted them. And I'm assured by all the walkers on the TGO that it wouldn't be a fellow walker that would take another person's poles.
That's terrible.
So, yeah, I was quite disillusioned by that, funnily enough. It was...
Well, you just bought them, and presumably you just fell in love with them, having just done 47 kilometres.
Yes, we bonded, me and my poles, that day, the previous day, because they'd also helped me over a river crossing as well. So I had been reluctant to use them. I've never used poles before, but I was extremely glad of them that day, yeah.
So did you, though, stick to the rest of your route correctly, as it were? You headed from Struy over to Drumnadrochit, okay?
I did deviate slightly from my route, because just coming out of the hotel, I met 2 fellow walkers, Maria and Eddie, a lovely couple, and they really did lift my spirits. And I hadn't seen anybody up until then. I'd been walking on my own, so we were day 4 at that point. And it was just nice to have some company and some banter. They teased me rotten, and I enjoyed that. So I actually came into Drumnadrochit via the forest, which was a long walk in, I must admit.
The Outdoors Station is a free media entertainment service dedicated to the self-powered outdoors enthusiast.
Now, the campsite at Drumnadrochit is fairly beautiful, I understand. You've got a good view of Loch Ness?
Yes, although I arrived there quite late as well.
But I trust you went to the chip shop or something to replenish yourself?
I did have some lovely fish and chips.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the ferry crossing, which they take you across there, is on the other side of Drum, isn't it? And it's a bit of a long walk round, I understand.
Yes, it is. Yes, funnily enough, I was running a little late for that. But so were 4 other fellow walkers as well. And me being the girl, I was sent forth to run ahead and flag down the boat if it should leave without us.
What charming gentlemen they were. Are these challenges we're talking about?
Yes. But Ian did buy me a sausage roll for my efforts, so that was worth it. Thank you, Ian.
You're so easily pleased. Right, so we're across now to Inverfaircraig, is it? Inverfaircraig? I've been there myself, I can't pronounce it.
Yes.
Inverfaircraig. And I take it's that route up the road you take there to Rogie, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And over to Dunmaglass Lodge.
Yep.
And the tracks through there. That's a pretty estate, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful, absolutely lovely. Unfortunately, their view isn't going to be quite so good, or isn't anymore.
Well, do explain.
There's actually a wind farm being built up in the Monlairth, and from the view of Dunmaglass Lodge, the footings are already set up for the roads there, so it's not particularly pleasant for them.
It is horrible to see the commercial development, isn't it, of the hills when you're actually going through.
Yes, it is, and I've been alarmed by the amount of tracks as well that are sort of being made, really, not just for the wind farms but for the grouse shooting. There's a lot of extra tracks, and I'm sure fellow walkers also found these can be quite misleading, because you think you're picking up on a track, and in fact it just goes off at a tangent. And it's very easy. I don't know whether you've experienced it yourself. You get on a track, it's a nice easy walk, and you're taking in the countryside, enjoying your surroundings, and you think, oh dear, where am I?
Yes, that shouldn't be there.
No.
No, it is something that, particularly if you're tired and you're not paying that much attention, as you say, you just sort of go along with it, don't you?
Yeah.
So where do we go from here then?
I did get slightly geographically displaced or misplaced whilst I was in the Monlairth. I had a job to actually find exactly where I was, but I just knew if I kept going east, I would come across the River Findhorn, which I did. And when I actually followed that down, I was probably about 1.5 kilometres out of where I thought I would be.
That particular evening, then, whereabouts did you camp? Roughly on the top of the Monolea?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I couldn't exactly tell you where, because it's quite a nondescriptive area.
It's a very hard area to navigate across, isn't it? It's a bit like Dartmoor. It's just sort of undulating and hard to pick out key features.
Yes, it is quite featureless, really. Lots of peat hags. There's also not an awful lot of running what I would call fresh water. So that's the one time I did use water purifying tablets. I used some snow, some frozen snow, but I did use water purifying tablets, and that was the only time I used it.
Was the snow deep up there, or was it just patches?
It was patches. Yeah, it was patches.
In the middle of all this, I'd like to just stop for a couple of seconds and just talk about vulnerability and the feeling of vulnerability that certainly being a solo female walker in this environment and on this event, how you actually felt as you went across 10 days or so across Scotland.
I actually enjoy being my own boss, really, certainly for the short period of the TGO. You make your own decisions. Yes, that can be, you're the one that's answerable to all your decisions. But it's interesting also, it just highlights your emotions, it highlights your decision making, and, you're the one that's got to decide whether you can cross that river or not. You can't discuss it with anybody else. And you suddenly start to have a bit of a heightened awareness, I'd say. You start thinking things through, you take more time to make decisions. So from that point of view, I really enjoyed that aspect. I did have a river crossing which was quite hairy, and thankfully I had my pacer poles at the time. Otherwise I'd have been probably pretty...
Well, describe why it was a bit hairy, because people can assume all sorts of things from you saying that.
Well, I obviously picked what I thought was the safest part, the shallowest part. I was looking for the least current. But when I got into the centre of the river, which we'd had a couple of days of rain previously, it was very strong, the current. It came up to my thighs, and I'm quite a strong-built person, but when it came to actually lifting my leg to move, the current was taking the leg that I got already down on the riverbed's base. So I had to sort of think it through, basically, and pick my way through. And because I've got the pacer poles, that gave me a much firmer
grip and
balance. And so I made it. But yeah, I was really pleased when I got across.
I'm not surprised. I mean, but I think when I was talking about vulnerability, I think a lot of people who might be listening to something like this and considering doing it for the first time, I think they're probably thinking more of sort of fear at night of being on your own in a tent and that sort of thing. But that didn't cross your mind at all?
No, not really, because what could happen? There's, you're hardly going to find some drunk walking home that's going to hit you on the head or anything like that.
Not unless you're in Braemar.
No. So I just don't get scared from that point of view.
No, but I mean, at no stage during the period of time you're doing it, you felt vulnerable, apart from the practical decisions you had to make.
No, because I was well equipped. I think that's probably, if you know you've got everything that you need, you've got food, you've got shelter, and you've got warmth, why worry? Make sure you've got some water on board so that you can give yourself a hot drink or something to eat, a hot meal, and you're self-sufficient. There's nothing to worry about, really. You've got the TGO team know roughly where you are. If you don't report in, they'll come looking for you.
So from there, then, you're heading towards the Red Bothy to go towards the what's known as the Burma Road. Was the following day fairly easy going, or how did you find it past the Findhorn?
It was a very cold night. It was a full moon, a clear night. It went down to -4, so I was cold that night, and the tent was frozen. So that's my first experience of a frozen tent. The actual ruins where I should have camped the night before were beautiful, and I loved the glen, the Findhorn Glen. It was beautiful. I had it was a long track walking through it, and it was just so much more gentle than the monoliths, and green and pleasant. Really nice.
Tell me, when you're actually walking these days, then, what are you eating for lunch, as it were, sort of food and sustenance as you go along?
I was using dehydrated food, mainly cheese, apples, with some fruit bars.
So sort of snacking as you went? Yeah,
snacking as I went. I didn't have an awful lot of snacks, which is something else that I would probably have in more supply in future.
Okay. So what time did you get to the Red Bothy then?
I got to the Red Bothy at 7:30 at night, ready and willing to hopefully do Burma Road into Aviemore, because I had got a youth hostel booked. But it soon became apparent that probably a few people thought, I met some people at the Red Bothy, and they thought it was a little bit too far to go that night, and I took their advice.
Yeah, and you're glad you did?
Yes and no. Yeah, I spent a nice evening in the Red Bothy with Mr. Jingles, I think.
I mean, how did you feel yourself? This is the first time you've done it, and as I think I warned you before you went, you've got to remember it's not a race. You mustn't keep pushing on too far ahead of yourself. Then you suddenly become, a very solitary walker because there's nobody else. It is a social event as well. Were you enjoying the social part of it, or how did that sort of part of it? Was there a fair balance in the way you were approaching it?
Yes. I also wanted to experience being on my own, and the benefits that you can get from that, having had a sort of a hectic build-up to it. But it was really nice to keep meeting up with the same faces at various points throughout the walk. I met Martin for the first time at Red Bothy, and I met him again probably 6 or 7 times, and it was just really nice to see a friendly face, and the bonds that you certainly make along the way are really strong. Yeah. So I did, and as the event pans out, it does get more and more social, and people do meet up for more of the social events that take place.
So you presumably got into Aviemore if you set off first thing in the morning from there, or getting towards midday-ish, lunchtime?
I actually got into Aviemore at 9:15 in the morning. I made a really early start. I did it in about 3 hours because I needed to phone in.
The Burma Road, though, is it's fairly nice underfoot, isn't it? It's fairly smooth. You can really get some speed going up there.
Yeah, there are reports that it's a very tough road. I found it fine. I must admit, I found it fine. It's quite well defined. Not a problem. It was a bit tricky. I really didn't like, having spent 3-4 days out in the wilderness, the A9, just the lorries
awful,
just
isn't
hit you, and you just feel like a rabbit in headlights, you know, completely out of it, really.
I couldn't agree with you more. You come down off that last ridge and you come down the track, and it's suddenly the noise and the impact of all this commercialism, and also I found actually getting across the A9 quite difficult.
Yeah, certainly.
It's a bit on the tricky side. But anyway, you got into Aviemore, and now presumably you were looking for some replacement poles, but so how did you get on with that?
I didn't. In fact, because I'd chosen the Pacer poles, they're only mail order on the internet. I couldn't replace them. I was a bit loath to fork out any money to buy any other sort of poles.
Yeah. I mean, it's best part of £100 again, isn't it?
Yeah,
so it's a lot of money.
So I did actually manage the whole challenge without any. I think I must have been the only one.
But you'd recommend people use poles?
Definitely, yes. Definitely.
So did you stay in Aviemore that night, or did you carry on to towards the Larry Guru?
I actually did spend that night in Aviemore, although I'd missed my slot for the previous night. They were free. They had a free bunk, so I did take advantage of that. Got some washing done and relaxed a little, and met up with a few people that I'd met previously. So that was nice, and we had a nice bite to eat in Aviemore, did a little bit of shopping. And then the following day, after that, I teamed up with Ray, and we did the Larry Guru, which was really windy.
Over to Crawbody.
That's correct.
Okay. Did you, a bit of interest, just reflecting again, it's quite, would you say it was an important thing to do, to have that rest afternoon to just recharge batteries and top yourself up?
I do. It was, the social side of it was nice, just have a nice meal, chat, busman's holiday, sort of chatting away. But it's good. It's all good banter. You relay your good points, your bad points. So it's a good time. It was a good time. I enjoyed my time in Aviemore.
So have you... Yeah, I mean, let's just talk quickly about the Larry Guru itself, the experience there, because a lot of people have heard the name, I'm sure, but have yet to visualise what it's like. How would you describe it?
It's beautiful. The day that I did it was very windy. The gales were up to 60 miles an hour, so it was really windy. But at no point did you feel unsafe. The sky was blue. It was just a lovely experience.
It's a very much of a boulder field. How did you find it underfoot?
I've experienced boulder fields previously, so I'm not fazed by the boulder fields. I probably could have done... There's still quite a bit of snow there, and I think I would have benefited from the poles, using some walking poles. Ray had a couple of experiences where the molten snow underneath, he went down quite deep up to his knees a few times, so that potentially could have been quite dangerous, really.
But on a good day, a magnificent walk.
It certainly is. Well worth doing. I'm so glad I did.
Since 2005, over 5 million people have listened to the Outdoors Station audio podcasts, and over 1 million have watched the videos. You can subscribe to the Outdoors Station in numerous ways. Visit the website and select the link to your chosen social media network. The UK's only award-winning audio and video podcast service for the great outdoors.
Now, I've walked past Crawbody a few times, and it's always been sort of swarming with various people that have come out of Braemar, I think, and not being the sort of cleanest and nicest of places. But I've never actually been in. How would you describe it?
Oh, it's great inside. Yeah, somebody had left some litter, unfortunately. It's a nice bothy. It's got a raised sleeping platform, which some mountain climbers had already taken their pitch for those. There was 3 sleeping bags already lined up there. It's a nice bothy. It's got a wood-burning stove. Yeah, it's got its own toilet, which is well used.
Did you stay inside it or did you camp outside?
Camped outside. It was very windy. A few people went on down to Derry Lodge because it was so windy. But Mark, a very kind TGO walker, gave me some more pegs.
Okay.
Which is really good.
Now, I know you wanted to do Ben Macdui when we were actually looking at this route to start off with. You achieved it the following day. Describe what it was like.
The day started off really quite clear, but looking over to my left, past the Cairn Toll, I don't know if I've pronounced that right.
The Devil's Point.
Yeah, I could actually see there was some cloud hanging over there. I decided to go through the boulder field, which is off the Larry-Guru. Halfway up, really clagged in, and visibility was pretty poor. But I made that fine. But there was a lot of snow still on Ben Macdui.
So which route did you take up then? Did you take this path around here, around Glen?
I came back up here and used that path there.
Wow, up to the Pools of Dee.
Yep.
Gosh, okay. That must have been pretty steep climbing.
It was, yeah.
What a strong pair of legs you've got there with no poles.
A pair of, steel thighs.
So you sort of got up towards the plateau, presumably Ben Macdui, and where the snow, you found the snowfields, as it were. What was the visibility like?
Absolutely dire.
Right.
It was quite scary because there was a lot of snow, a big area of snow, and with the fog combined, it just all melted into one.
But I understand there was a group of people up there or whatever that were heading down roughly the same way as you.
There was a very experienced walker up there who was actually a guide for a lady. I stuck to him like glue, I must admit. If I'd been on my own, I wouldn't have taken the route. I'd have gone back the way I'd come, which was back down the boulder field.
Right. So you were heading round presumably to the memorial hut.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. That's a sweet little body, isn't it?
It's lovely. It's been recently refurbished, probably I think about 2 years ago. It looks like a sauna inside compared to
really?
Yeah, it does. It's really nice. A lovely shiny wood-burning stove and nice clean benches to sleep on. Good
grief. Well, last time I was there was with the 2 guys when we did our several days in the Cairngorms, and it was like a tin shack.
No, it's nothing like that now. You can even smell the new wood. It's lovely.
Oh, lovely.
Yep.
So from there, were you heading down towards Braemar via Derry Lodge then? Is that the route you were taking?
That's right, yes. And what a lovely glen that is. Glen Derry is beautiful.
And where did you stay that night then? Where did you actually get to?
That night, I stayed in Braemar. So that was another long day because I walked Ben Macdui and then walked into Braemar. So
Gosh.
That was another long stint.
So, and again, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock before you arrived?
Yeah. Yes.
Where did you stay in Braemar?
I stayed in the youth hostel in Braemar.
Okay, they're a lovely couple, aren't they, there?
Yeah, they are really nice. And I was walking into Braemar. Again, that's another long road.
That is, isn't it? You can't get away from that road from Mar Lodge into Braemar. It's a slog.
Yeah, and I was on my own, and that was a bit of a low point, really, I suppose, just the trudging. And I'd missed the hospitality at Mar Lodge. So I missed my cup of tea and piece of cake there.
And you just struggled down. What was the weather conditions like as you came down that road?
It was raining.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm sure your spirits were lifted very quickly when you were in Braemar, weren't you?
Well, I was a bit late for the social side of it. I was walking past all the restaurants and people were laughing and jolly and it looked like something out of a Charles Dickens film.
Let me in.
Yes,
give me a drink. So didn't you go down to the Five Arms then, or whatever, when she got herself sorted?
No, I had to cook my own meal in Braemar Youth Hostel.
Oh, bless.
I know.
So did you have another rest day there, or did you head straight off to Localita Lodge first thing in the morning?
Yeah, that's what I did. I headed for Calita Lodge. I had a lazy morning. I sort of enjoyed the youth hostel, really, which is a nice... sent a few emails and caught up with a bit of admin. And then walked down to Calita Lodge.
Which is a nice, easy walk. Now I understand you had one of the fabled nights at Localita.
Oh, yes. I was treated like a queen by Bill and had a great evening.
It's a lovely atmosphere he created, isn't it?
It was fabulous, absolutely fabulous, and it's probably one of the highlights, really, of my walk, I must admit.
Now, you came out on, Jocks Road, heading to, is it Glen Clover?
Yes.
Let's get the map to wake up. Here we go. Were you on your own, or did you have company for that particular trip?
I actually met a really nice guy, Steve, at Calita Lodge, and we did Jocks Road together. I was slightly wary of whether or not I'd pick up the track because my vet has said that at times it's not very clear. In fact, that is correct. It was a little difficult to pick up. But at this point, I'd spent 2 more previous days on my own, so it was nice to have some company.
And I mean, I found that Glen Calita is absolutely beautiful. It is so.
It is.
It's gorgeous.
Yes, it is, and it was a beautiful day. Again, we were very lucky, and then just the contrast between the ruggedness of the higher peaks, and then coming down into the glen, and just gently meandering down, and just sort of the beauty of the flora and fauna unfolding, and the sheep and the green grass. It was beautiful. Yeah,
it's a lovely spot. Now, Glen Clover itself is also owned by the Balmoral estate, and there used to be a campsite just down here, but they've closed that now, and there's, I understand, a lot more signs saying no camping.
Yeah, we did experience that, certainly. Although when I spoke to the hotel, they did say you could camp somewhere, but it seemed quite a way off.
So a soft bed and some warm food and a bath.
Yeah, was very inviting.
Attractive for some reason.
It was that. Yes. Yes.
So far, I mean, how are you feeling in spirits in yourself by the time you got to Glen Clover?
Absolutely great. You know, I don't get down easily. I joined every aspect of what had been thrown at me so far.
So is there a trudge over the top then to head towards Tarfside? That's sort of the beginning of the end almost, where everybody starts to funnel before they head for the east coast. Just a nice gentle day's walking, or anything of note?
Yeah, it was. I found them a little like the Monlaeth Mountains, sort of slightly indescriptive, really. But again, I was with Steve this day, and we worked out the route fine. I found a deer horn, which was quite a nice little find.
Okay. And we got down to Tarfside, and what sort of time?
It's about 7:00. We made it into Tarfside.
So just in time for the social evening.
That's correct, yes.
So you're in time for that one.
Oh, just in time for that one, definitely.
But I think it's a nice location, isn't it? The camaraderie that appears when you're all camped at the campsite there, or on the sports field. It's quite nice to catch up with people you've bumped into for the last sort of 9 or 10 days.
It certainly is, yes. Familiar, friendly faces, the telling of stories, the locals are just so friendly. Yeah, it's brilliant.
And did you pop down to the retreat in the morning for breakfast?
No.
Did you?
No,
Everybody
not.
goes there for breakfast.
No, I know everybody does, and that's why I didn't.
Oh, right. Where did you go then?
I actually had a bacon butty in the
hostel.
At the hostel.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we by this time I was still with Steve. We decided we weren't going to head the road into Edsall. Being sort of slightly
antisocial.
Not antisocial. Wanting to make the
most of the environment.
That's correct. So we went along through the Wirrans, which was really nice.
And so across the top there?
Across the top, yeah. And it was another lovely day.
And what is a matter of interest, what's it like up there? Is it boggy at all, or fairly mossy?
It was quite peat haggy, and I can remember thinking to myself, gosh, if we'd had a lot of rainfall, this would be really slippy and not very pleasant, but it had had a few days to dry out, so we were just fine.
So, just looking at the map as you're explaining that then, so presumably you went up to, West Wirren, Hill of Wirren, East Wirren,
That's
took
correct.
the ridge across there and that track there.
And again, there is so many more tracks than what's on the maps.
Right.
There really is. There's quite a lot of scarring on the landscape, I would say, of these tracks. You know.
So you came down to Edsall then, presumably with quite an attractive route. I've never actually done that.
Yeah.
I've usually ended up
It's
doing
great.
this.
And you can
this
see
track
the sea
here.
as well at this point.
Oh,
So
right.
this is really, it just makes you realise how far you've come, having the view of the sea, which is really good.
And then, of course, you've got Edsall and then that lovely, charming walk through to North Waterbridge
yes.
campsite.
Yes, yeah. We actually had a bite to eat in Edsall. And I don't know whether that's a good or bad thing, because, you get that sort of comfy Sunday afternoon, having had a big lunch sort of feeling. I actually put my Crocs on, which was fatal, because I got some blisters that walk into North Waterbridge. I actually picked up some blisters, which was pretty annoying.
It is a long, tough road, that, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And the cars don't really take many prisoners either. They don't give much space.
Well, I think Steve, who I was walking with, I kept saying to him, I was like a child, are we nearly there yet?
You don't have to be a child. Everybody says that. It's awful. So from North Waterbridge, it's the last bit to St Cyrus. I presume, like everybody, every year, there was a good gathering of people all headed off at the same time?
Roughly, but we had a really bad day. It was raining this last day. It was pouring with rain. So people just went at different paces,
right. And what was the emotional feeling you felt as you came over that little path and just dropped down to see the sea?
It's something that you can't quite describe. You're coming to the end of this journey and you don't really want it to be the end. And you're happy that you've achieved something, but at the same time, you just want to turn around and go back. You want to do west to east.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's the inevitability of real life suddenly hitting you, but like the wall of water, isn't it?
That's correct.
Got to get back and face reality again.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think you described it really eloquently there, and obviously the emotional part of it. Let's just talk about a few practical things, if we can. Obviously, there are good things and bad things and things you learn about the kit that you take along. But generally, what would you take with you next time? Well, first of all, would you like to do it again?
I'd love to do it again.
Okay,
yeah,
so it's a positive experience. Then.
It was definitely a positive experience. Yes.
So that if that was going to happen now and you would pick the same bag up, what would you change in the bag?
Well, according to everybody else, it was far too heavy. And I need to reduce my weight, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was good, 16, 18 kilos?
I think it was, possibly a little bit more than that. Gosh. Because I was carrying all the maps that I had to buy along the way.
Okay. And a couple of books, I understand.
And a couple of books, yeah.
Okay. So you take less weight in various ways. Poles, definitely?
Definitely poles. Although I was surprised at how well I did manage without them. I think they are a necessity just to preserve your knees, really, for the future. Once they're gone, aren't they? And, I would recommend poles. And in fact, the fact that I was the only person that wasn't using them just shows you that everybody has the same mindset.
Understands the benefits, definitely. Yeah. Anything that you would have liked to take with you? Like, for example, I know you had the phone with the sort of GPS software on there, but would you have preferred a GPS?
There was a couple of times when I was out on my own that it probably would have just been reassurance. I would have used it, as a final resort, but it probably is a good thing to have. Yeah, it's there, so why not use it, really, I suppose. Okay. Although I'm still quite old-fashioned and prefer, using my compass, really.
But from what you were saying at the very beginning there, I think actually the best thing you probably take with you, or do at least, is have a couple of days preparation so you can prepare the maps and mentally visualise exactly what you're doing before you start, because you hit the ground running, really.
Yes, that would be nice in an ideal world.
So what about pieces of kit that really worked for you?
I loved my sleeping bag. I do get cold. As soon as I stop, I get very cold, so I do need a warm sleeping bag and some warm layers.
That was the RAB Women's Neutrino.
That's correct, yeah.
400?
Yeah. So there's probably, you could argue, a bit of extra weight there, but for me, you know, for the amount of time that you're in your tent in an evening, you need to be warm. You need to sort of rebuild your strength and your body warmth. So to me, that's important.
Mm-hmm. Pleased with the jet boil?
Love my jet boil. It's a little bit love it or hate it with some of the TGOers. For the type of crossing it is, I think it's ideal for the sort of food that you eat. You know, especially as you can pick up in some of the youth hostels, sort of decent food and things like that.
So you were eating commercial freeze-dried or
Yes,
food?
Commercial freeze-dried food.
Okay. I think you said something, you liked your sleeping mat. That gave you a good night's sleep?
That was just brilliant. In fact, I put that out on the bench when I was in Red Bothy, and Martin sat on it and he said, "Oh, this feels positively warm on my bottom." It does really reflect the heat back. It's brilliant.
And that was which one?
That was the Neo Air.
Neo Air.
Yeah.
Was that the short or the full-length version?
I went for the medium length. Possibly, if you're much taller than myself, 5'9", the longer length might be wider also. I don't know, but I found it certainly long enough for me.
And as regards the rest of your gear, I mean, if you're happy with your jet boil, which you presume you are just heating the water and eating straight out of the packet, your sleeping system, you have got a fairly light tent. What else could you have changed? Did you take too many clothes, or could you have taken, or should you have taken different ones?
I probably could have changed my clothes that I took. I took too many bottom trousers. I actually invested it in the train station, some lightweight crag hoppers, which really, once they got wet, dried out really quickly. So I could have just alternated 2 pairs of trousers, and when in fact I did actually take 4.
Gosh. Okay.
Leggings type thing. And a couple of the tops I could have chosen better, I think, really.
Okay, but were you generally... I mean, the weather was fairly good by the sound of it, so you probably weren't too cold during the days.
No, I wasn't. No, there were. It was just in the evening it did get cold, but I just slept in my extra down jacket when it was cold at night.
So, are you putting your name down for next year?
That's going to be a very kept secret. Yes, I possibly will do. Yeah, I've enjoyed it that much. I'm already planning my route. See, that's how organised I am.
You heard that, everybody.
Yeah.
Well, good to see Heather has started route planning already. Who's taking bets? It sounds like she has the TGO challenge bug. It gets into your system. So let's hope she also starts better next time round and remembers to A, catch the flight, and B, not to miss the train station. You retired people who do the TGO challenge have no idea just how much pressure preparing for the event entails when you have a full-time job and a family home to run. So fair play to Heather and those like her who do it. Well, I've hoped you enjoyed this slightly longer than normal podcast, and until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear more from our extensive free library, please visit the website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk, the home of UK-based audio and video podcasts for outdoors people everywhere.